control. I'm just trying to get that money like 1-0-0-0-0-0-0-0-0-0. I'm here with Gino.
Hey, danger, coming with them bangers. Tell me where my paper. Still on the same mission, trying to live major. Don't hate me, hate the game. I'm a player. Feeling like Pac. Represent. On my block. Try to knock me down, but I come up on top. Yeah, they wanna see me flop. Got a plot, want a lot. I won't stop on my pops. Got so many flows, it's insane. They don't really understand the game. Got a plan and it's plain, I ain't playing. I'm just trying to gain. I wanna get that big bag, need that big Rex. Blow up Tic Tac with a blue cheese at. I don't give a fuck about your feedback. Eat that, get back, sit back, watch me spit that kickback. Got so many flows, yeah, they think that I'm insane. Ghetto kids in a lot of pain, all about the bills, ain't shit changed. Danger, coming with them bangers. Tell me where my paper. Still on the same mission, trying to live major. Don't hate me, hate the game, I'm a player. If you a hater, I don't hate you. I'm just really happy that I ain't you. I just wanna thank you. You kept me motivated, so now I motivate you. There's a lot of cake, money on my mind like a banker. Coming through with them bangers, ain't no room for mistakes. Lot of stake, hustle till we get a lot of rooms, lot of stakes. Good kid, but I keep it gangsta. All gas, no brakes. Got cash for the case. More cash in the case. More cash in the safe. More cash on the way. Hustling all day. Ay. Danger, coming with them bangers. Tell me where my paper. Still on the same mission, trying to live major. Don't hate me, hate the game. I'm a player.
Danger, coming with them bangers. Where my fucking paper.
Said I'm taking big shots, just stop where I'm driven, no pit stops. This hot, I ain't playing like a 6 spot. Pissed off, thought I told him this a chip shot. I ain't missing cause you know I'm taking big shots. Just stop where I'm driven, no pit stops. This hot, I ain't playing like a 6 spot. Pissed off, thought I told him this a chip shot. I ain't missing cause you know I'm taking big shots. They been trying to get me cheap like a thrift shop, but I told them it's my time, check the wristwatch. They been talking way before they even doing something. Whoa. If they wanna play, let's get a tip off. Ain't no silver lining, dawg, this some rose gold. Getting new money, I'm a old soul. Yeah, I get it bouncing like a pogo. Whoa. And I'm too cold like Frozone. And my chick elastic, girl. Told them we ain't in the faking, this ain't plastic, girl. Bought a new whip and cash, now my taxi thorough. Way I'm shooting like step with my passes, bro. The way I'm playing the field, I'm in a league of my own. And now they all in they fields, I got them all on my phone. But dog, I'm hitting the climb, I got no time on the low. Way I'm shooting is messy, the way I'm hitting the goals. I'm taking big shots, just stop. Way I'm driven, no pit stops. This hot, I ain't playing like a 6 spot. Pissed off, thought I told him this a chip shot. I ain't missing cause you know I'm taking big shots. Just stop, where I'm driven, no pit stops. This hot, I ain't playing like a 6 spot. Pissed off, thought I told him this a chip shot. I ain't missing cause you know I'm taking big shots. I just left, but you know I'm coming back though. Whoa. And you know I don't play by my rags though. Now go and turn it up to the max, whoa. Send a paper to me now like a fax, whoa. Yeah. Got 2 phones ringing up the hook now. When I'm in the city, I get looks now. I was going bad, but I'm good now. Said I had to go and put my foot down. Told them I'ma get it and go. Even in the summer, man, they knowing I'm cold. I got a couple checks coming that I made out the flows. Might get a couple more popping if I do it some more. I gotta do it for real. Said I'm back in my bag. All my digits are climbing just like they all on a dash. And they tell me slow down cause dog I'm moving too fast. Might go and cop me a Tesla cause dog I still got a gas. Said I'm taking big shots. Just stop where I'm driven, no pit stops. This hot, I ain't playing like a 6 spot. Pissed off, thought I told him this a chip shot. I ain't missing cause you know I'm taking big shots. Just stop where I'm driven, no pit stops. This hot, I ain't playing like a 6 spot. Pissed off, thought I told him this a chip shot. I ain't missing cause you know I'm taking big shots. Just stop where I'm driven, no pit stops. This hot, I ain't playing like a 6 spot. Pissed off, thought I told him this a chip shot. I ain't missing cause you know I'm taking big shots. Just stop where I'm driven, no pit stops. This hot, I ain't playing like a 6 spot. pissed off. Thought I told him this a chip shot. I ain't missing cause you know I'm taking big shots.
Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll, and it's time to run it up, yeah you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor, ayy, on the road, here we go. Yeah, we winning by a landslide. Never see me coming, I'm a landmine. Yeah, I ain't taking orders in command like, yeah, you about to see me on demand like, you know on demand. If you ain't know, you about to understand. Yeah, I got the team by my side, right hand. Yeah, take it to a string, you ain't seen it like that. Yeah, and it's the dream, man, we coming for the bag. Yeah, and we ain't never going back now. Future expedited, now we on the fast track now. They won't lend a hand, now they see us on the map now. It's time to act out. Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll, and it's time to run it up, yeah you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor, ayy, on the road, here we go, yeah, at the top of the class on a roll, ayy, and it's time to run it up, yeah you know, yeah, maxed out, put the pedal to the floor, yeah, on the road, here we go, here we go. Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll, and it's time to run it up, yeah you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor, ayy, on the road, here we go, yeah, at the top of the class on a roll, ayy, and it's time to run it up, yeah you know, yeah, maxed out, put the pedal to the floor, yeah, on the road, here we go, here we go. Here we go. On a roll, here we go, here we go.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Frankie Candles live stream. Bitcoin rejecting about $76,000, almost exactly here. Are we going to get the bigger breakout? Are we going for the pullback? If you tuned into last night's live stream, you will know we are watching some key levels underneath us. We're going to take a look at Market Cipher B. I'll go over all the key levels I'm looking at and kind of my plan here for a potential continuation up. And if we do correct, can we see the uptrend continue? Obviously, money flow looking pretty good on the higher hourly time frames. We have actually just in general market structure. Money flow is one of those things that we kind of help simplify market structure, but the just typical market structure has changed to the upside, obviously, as we covered yesterday. So are we going to be able to continue the trend? Is this going to be a massive fake out for a massive dump? I'm going to cover everything in tonight's live stream. So shout out to the Mafia. Welcome in. We got Jim saying 82K incoming. We got some people looking for dumps, some people looking for pumps. Let me know in the chat, pump or dump. Bears versus Bulls right now. Go. Let me know what you guys are thinking. Shout out to Nirvana. Nirvana said, yes, we're pumping or dumping. Shout out to Nirvana. That is the only 100% correct question. Shout out to Nirvana. We got Darren Delsings in the chat. Cryptic, Crabman, Mama Nana. Welcome in Mountain Magnus. We got Sam in the chat. What is going on? Said just got back from a cycle. Thought it would be a good time to tune in. New Frankie would just be starting at this time for you as usual. Shout out to Sam. We're live here, baby. I kind of been sporadic and random with the times here. Trying to go live a little bit earlier than 5:45. Pump that dump. Looking like pump or maybe dump soon. Shout out to Sam. Well, I'll try to break it down for you guys. We'll take a look at Market Cipher B. I'll talk about exactly what I'm looking for if we are going to see that push to the downside. The things that we were looking at yesterday, I mean, we didn't really get the move down. We kind of just wiggled sideways. So I'll cover that with you guys. Hopefully dumping. I think a lot of people want dumps. I need medical help with this market. Shout out to Rich. Oh, God. Put him on life support. But yeah, I know a lot of people are looking for dumps. I'm going to talk about kind of the max pain scenario here for you guys. So without further ado, guys, let's not waste too much time here. And let's go ahead and jump on into the charts. Let's get into it. All right, so here we are, guys. Obviously, Bitcoin. If you tuned in last night, we were looking at the major anchored VWAP pulled from $98,000. I don't know why I couldn't think of that. But yeah, we're kind of just sitting here at this anchor VWAP, guys. You saw the thumbnail. The thumbnail says decision time, something like that, critical level, something like that. But guys, we are at the level here. The anchored VWAP obviously was the major target to the upside here as we look for the continuation to the upside with our 10-hour money flow continuing into the green, looking for that trend to continue up. Obviously, still holding my long position over here on Femex. Oh, man, it's up 6,900 now. It was just up 7,000. But, yeah, holding the long position here and obviously looking for that anchored VWAP to get tapped. Obviously, guys, not only is this resistance, but it is a very, very critical level because, as you know, in my own personal opinion, if we are able to hold this level, guys, it does open up a potentially bigger pump towards about $80,000. We got a little bit of a zone resistance here. I will go over that in detail today for you guys. But the kind of thought process here is, are we going to get the cool off first before potentially seeing the continuation up? What are the levels that we're looking at? I'll kind of cover those in just a minute. But if you guys tuned in last night, you will know we were looking at the 8-hour red dot with a 30-minute money flow crossover. Two kind of things that we were looking at. Someone actually asked me in the live stream yesterday, if you're at the major level of resistance, why are you not just shorting right now? Well, in the premium Discord, we're actually looking for something specific here, and we actually talked about it on the live stream as well. Looking for that potential 1-hour bearish divergence to print, looking for that higher high to come in with our lower high on our momentum wave, and you can see that did mark the at least local top as we attempt to flip this level to support. There's actually a couple of levels down here that I'll bring up in just a minute, but we did end up putting in that 1-hour bearish divergence, tapping into about $76,000 where we did have a key golden pocket retracement. We come in, tap that golden pocket, literally almost to the dollar there, putting in that bearish divergence. There's your div into your key level. There's the little correction down. And of course, everybody wants to know, are we getting the bigger correction? That's what I want to cover with you guys today. I'll take a look at Market Cypher B with you, show you some of the money flow and the actual signal that I'll be looking for, kind of similar to yesterday. It is a Market Cypher B 116 to potentially anticipate that drop down. But for me personally here, guys, as I mentioned, I am not... There's an argument both ways here, guys. I mean, we're at resistance. We got the bear divs. If we do get the correction, of course, I will cover those key levels, kind of the same levels we looked at yesterday. But at the end of the day, right, like we know we have the low volume gap. Once we break above that golden pocket, it does open the door to head up towards that 786, close to about $80,000, right, towards a larger golden pocket as well. We also have some, let me pull this up real quick. We also have some daily MPOCs up there. I'll probably be looking at it like $79,000 to $80,000 for the most part. And of course, once you break above the golden pocket, where's that next place for price to likely go? Well, it's going to go ahead and seek out that 786, which is obviously confluent with that level of resistance. Let me hide that other box here. So, I'm not necessarily super interested in, just trying to short this thing and short this thing and short this thing, especially being long from the low. I have no reason. I know a lot of people are probably feeling FOMO. Oh, my God, should I FOMO long? And, if you watched yesterday's live stream, you will know, like, I always try to caution people against FOMO, right? Like, people looking to long, like right around here, and it's like, yeah, sure, you get a pump to the upside, but of course, you are pushing into more resistance. You are looking for that potential failed auction up here. It's just too late, in my opinion, right? Based off my strategies, I like to long the lows. Of course, that's how I got the long position down here at the value area low. I don't have to worry about the FOMO up here because I have a trading plan. I wait for those key levels. I look for the confirmations, and only then do I take the trades. So the only thing I could really look for up here was shorts. And, once we break above this golden pocket, right, like things could get really exciting really quick. So I'm not necessarily interested in just trying to short this thing and short this thing and short this thing and short this thing. If I am expecting a bigger push to the upside, if we can crack the resistance and hold flip this resistance into support, which you can see we are attempting to do. Now, if we talk about these failed auction kind of setups, guys, and essentially all a failed auction is in its simplest form, right? It's just the attempt to trade at higher prices with the failure to hold it, right? So if we are going to see a bigger drop to the downside, there's a couple of things I'm looking at. It is a little bit of a zone. It starts here at this high. You could even like pull it down to this previous high right here at about 73.9. This is kind of what I'm looking at, right? If we do end up getting the breakdown, getting stuck under this resistance, and I'll show you exactly what I'll be looking for on Market Cypher B. Like when it comes to the trades up here, guys, again, the only thing I can look for up here is shorts. But just in my personal situation, I am holding my shorts from higher, so I'm not. And with the low volume gap, with the liquidity above, I'm just not interested in like trying to just, again, just kind of catch the reverse knife consistently if I am expecting a quick and fast move up if we break that resistance. So for me personally, I'm just holding my long and my shorts from, of course, much, much, much higher. But as far as the short positions up here, like, again, its resistance is the only thing I would look for the way I'm positioned personally. I'm not looking to just FOMO in there. Not FOMO, but I'm not looking to like aggressively try to catch, again, like what's the word I'm trying to say here? Yeah, I don't want to fight the beast here, right? I don't want to fight against that potentially aggressive move to the upside, right? And being long from the bottom and not short from the top, but, short from all the way up here, I'm kind of in a cushy position. And with our high time frame money flow, you guys will know we've been looking at that 16-hour, and specifically on Friday, we were looking at the 2-week green dot printing, which is still printing here, by the way. With our 21-hour money flow crossover into the green. This is another indication. It's a market cipher B116 strategy, indicating the trend will continue to the upside. And just overall, right, we are attempting to break out of this range, right? So, I would still say if we do get a pullback, I am interested in potential bounces from this very key level here. Let me pull it up. Same level that we looked at yesterday. We have 3 daily MPOCs. We have the value area high. We also have a weekly MPOC in here. And this zone does sit between about $71,600 and $70,057, right? So if we do get the pullback, and again, I'll show you market cipher B in a second, we're at resistance, right? We're hitting the anchor VWAP. We tap the golden pocket, right? Again, this is only where I look for shorts. Could we break up here and continue up? Yes, that does not bother me. I'm covered for the long from the long down here. But if I was not holding a long, I know a lot of people are probably feeling a lot of FOMO. Oh my God, I'm not holding a long. I got to jump in, right? Not financial advice. It's just not where I would take a long, right? You're at resistance. Why would I take a long here if we are at resistance and we could be seeing a pullback again when we look at market cipher B? I'll show you exactly what I'm looking at. But, again, long at your own risk. Maybe it plays out. I hope it plays out. But this is just not, when it comes to me, I'm only looking for shorts up here. I'm not currently holding a short. But if we do end up seeing that failed auction, we start breaking below that resistance. If we fail to turn that resistance into support, this is where I think you could get the bigger drop down. My biggest areas of interest right now are going to be sitting down here, again, between $71,600 and about $70,057. This is also confluent if I turn off our local range and I pull up our larger, where's it at? Right here, right? Turn this range off, our larger range, right? This is also a retest of our larger value area that we had looked at, anticipating the fast drop down through our low volume gap, major support down here in this value area. We fill it in full, get a perfect bounce from the value area low. And I will also, guys, in a little while, I'm going to cover the higher time frames. And I know I've covered this a little bit, but I'm going to try to pull some fractals from the previous bear markets and talk to you about, we talked about, 2026 bottom watch. I've been talking about it for, basically the beginning of the year, or even once we got this drop down. But I'm going to kind of show you, right, why I personally do think that, obviously, I can't guarantee the bottom's not in right now, but why I'm more interested in looking for macro bottoms down here and not just saying the bear market is beginning, right? We covered it briefly yesterday, but I'm going to pull some fractals and kind of show you what I'll be looking for. But at the end of the day, guys, if we do get the correction, major resistance. Bitcoin is sitting at a major level. Yes, we can get the squeeze to the upside, but at the end of the day, it would be really clean, in my opinion, if we do get that resistance to flip into, or support to flip into resistance. I will be looking down here. It's the retest of the local range high. You have all this confluence on your horizontal levels. You have the golden pocket 786, which actually did move slightly, right? And it's still the same zone. But it would also be a retest of our major value area here. Again, you do have the change in market structure, right? We are now putting in higher lows and higher highs. Of course, we saw this coming on the rejection up here, looking for those higher lows and higher highs. That's why we took the long position down here in the premium. And that just, still gives me the same bias I had yesterday, which is if we do get the pullback, right? And I know it's a little difficult for people who may not be holding longs, looking to FOMO at, again, I'm happy I'm not in that situation. If I were in that situation and this popped up, I would just miss the long. I don't care, right? I'll just find another setup. But, so I can't guarantee just because we're at resistance, we will reject. But, at the end of the day, I would really think this would look very, very clean. Come down here, retest those ranges, higher low, and then maybe that is where we get that bigger break to the upside. If you're looking for potential long positions, I'm not going to give you the exact setup or anything like that, but this would be the next major level of support. If this fails, right, and I'll pull up the local range once again, If this does fail, right, I'll just be looking to come back down into the range, looking to go to the POC at about $68,000, lose the POC, come down to the low, and I think everybody here knows if we lose this level, this would be a major failure, and I will be looking for a new low on Bitcoin. But until we get down here, until we can assess that information as it comes in, I am going to be looking at this as medium-term bullish, right, for potential higher lows and higher highs. The biggest areas of interest for me are going to be up here. POC is going to be key support. I might take a trade down there. I don't know. I have to analyze the information, the candlesticks as we get in there. Look at the order flow, understand, look at the money flow, see if we have a higher probability of a continuation there. But at the end of the day, I would say this is the biggest level of support, and then underneath that is really going to be the value area low. I'm more comfortable taking longs at the lows, and then obviously in this scenario, I will be interested in longs from the value area high, but more often than not, I don't love long setup down here in the moment. I'll take it, but at the end of the day, if we do get a bigger pullback, this is the biggest level to look at. Mark this off on your chart, $71,606 to $70,057. We also do have a CME gap sitting right down there, I believe at like 71. Let me see this real quick. We do also have that CME gap down there coming in at about $71,600. So you have a CME gap down there as well. I don't have that marked off on the chart, obviously, but it is more confluence there right on that value area high, right? So maybe we go down, fill the CME gap. Just adds to the confluence down there and why this is an important level to watch, just like this was an important level to watch on the way up. So let me go ahead and take this off the chart real quick. Now, when we look at market cipher B, are we going to reject here, guys? Let's take a look, right? Well, the best shot that we have for a rejection, of course, for me personally, on these failed auctions, there is kind of two ways to look at it. I was talking to the premium Discord about this last night. You can either look for the bearish divergence to form on the 1 hour. Let me see if I can pull this up in the Discord to show the post. Where's it at? Where's it at? Where's it at? Right? So right here. Right, you can either look for that 1 hour bearish divergence to print, right? We had the lower high looking to form on the momentum wave. Of course, we did push up above this. The bear div did not print just yet. We pushed up again, and then eventually you do get that 1 hour bearish divergence to confirm, and then that does mark the local top. There's two ways that I look to trade these, right? At the end of the day, I'm either going to try to catch that aggressive top. I was not on the chart at this point, so I did not take that. The other option, right, is to wait for the loss and the bearish retest of this previous resistance, right? We already tried to lose it and failed, right? So again, it's like I'm not really interested in just trying to like chop up my account here. I actually did get stopped out. I took the later entry here on the loss of support, but I already got stopped out for a small loss, right? I lost like 100 and I think it was let me see here. Where is it? Yeah, I lost about $153, but of course, right, small losses, big wins, up 71 at the time, $7,100 on the long. Small losses, big wins. But again, I'm not looking to like, if we were coming down, I'd say I'm not looking to like just continuing to catch the knife, right? So I'm not going to look to continue to catch that reverse knife, but either you're going to try to catch that div at the top or look for the breakdown of resistance. Turn that support back into resistance, and then we can get that bigger drop to the downside. If we look at market cipher B, looking at the higher time frames, guys, you can see the daily VWAP, in my personal opinion, right? We've been above that zero line for quite some time, right? We tried to come down, came back up, tried to come down, came back up. We've now been above that zero line for a while now. So I do think we're going to get the bigger correction here, whether we have to go in and put another high, right? Maybe we want to take out that high again, right? Or we just come down and get that failed auction. That daily red dot, once that daily red dot prints, I think that's our best chance of seeing a bigger correction to the downside. We've already got like, what is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 green candles in a row. I think, unless I counted that wrong. I think that's 7 green candles in a row. That daily red dot, could be the correction. On top of that, right, we're going to scoot down another time frame here. 16-hour red dot has been flashing. And our 12-hour red dot has also been flashing. If we see, this will be an early signal, right, because that daily is going to take a little longer to print. If the 16 and the 12-hour red dots do end up printing, I am looking down here to that 45-minute time frame, looking for that money flow, which is generally trending to the downside. If we get that 12-hour red dot to print on that 45-minute money flow crossover, this would be a market cipher B lower time frame bearish setup, which could call for that bigger correction to the downside, right? That money flow across into the red, that will give us a downtrend on the 45-minute. But when we push up to the 16-hour, this would be a red dot, looking like an ever flow to the downside. And because money flow is coming into the green, money flow always indicates the longer-term trend. So that would, in my opinion, make this a big area of interest for a higher low and a higher high. If this happens, I don't know. Here's my thing, right? I said I was going to talk about Max Payne. This would be super beautiful. I imagine, right, a lot of people, and let me know in the chat if you guys are feeling this, if you're not holding along. I imagine a lot of people are, getting very emotional up here. Oh, my God, I'm not holding along. Holy cow, right? And I do think this would be a beautiful opportunity for anyone who is, looking for a bounce, right, to get that pullback. For me personally, I need some kind of a pullback to look for a long. There is no long setup here for me, my personal strategies. Other people, right, might trade breakouts. If you trade breakouts, of course, if that works for you. But for me personally, right, I like to long from the lows, which again, right, there's no reason why I need to FOMO into that long because I'm already long from the low. But for me, there's no longs up here, right? Doesn't mean you can't take a long, but for me, I'm not looking for longs down here. Only thing I look for is the short, if we do get it, if that 12-hour red dot, 16-hour red dot prints, and then, of course, not only the 45-minute money flow crossover into the red, but when you look at the 16-hour, the 1-hour money flow crossover into the red would be what I'm looking for that market cipher B1/16th, right? So that's going to be the very simple kind of signal I would wait for, right? 16-hour, 12-hour red dot, 1 hour and 45-minute money flow crossover into the red. That's, I think, the best chance to get some kind of a pullback, maybe go fill that CME gap, and then hopefully we can get some confirmation in there for a higher low, and then maybe that's where we come down or come back up and fill that bigger or continue to fill that bigger volume gap into this next target between $79,000 and $80,000. This, I think, if I was not holding along, right, I would be saying to myself, I don't know. That just feels too perfect. Like the market would just be so nice to give that to me. And I do think the Max Payne scenario here is for price to just continue pushing up, right? Again, now I'm not going to make decisions based off of that. But, again, I am holding the long, so I don't have to worry about that. I cannot guarantee you're going to get this pullback, right? And if this, then that statement. If we get this, in my opinion, Market Cipher B is saying that this could be a good area to put in a higher low. But if we don't get that right, I'm in a cushy position, right? I'll just let the long continue to play out, right? And I'll just continue to make money off that trade. But, for me personally, like this would probably be either I'd be short or I would be in no longs, right? And I would just wait for the bigger move up. Again, if you have a different strategy, maybe you want to trade breakouts or something like that. Again, I think a lot of, just like last night, I talked about how I can only look for shorts up here. If you wanted to trade the breakout, it would have been really exciting for about 5 minutes, and then you would have been, back at break even or maybe stopped out. So again, that's why I don't like, you're at resistance. You see the bearish divergences. This is not where I look to enter a long. I can only enter shorts there, which is why in the Discord, right, we look for the, where's it at? Right, that's why we look for those bearish divergences to form, right? Typically, bearish divergences are good reversal signals. Doesn't mean it's going to be the top forever, but good reversal signals. Just not, you want to short bearish divergences, not long them, right? So, yeah, I'm just chilling in long position. We'll see if we lose that support. I think that would be kind of the first sign of weakness. Right now, we are obviously attempting to hold on top of the anchored VWAP, hold on top of these previous highs. Once we lose that, if we get that 45-minute money flow crossover, maybe we start the downtrend. This is the biggest place to look. And then, again, if that fails, I'll just be looking down towards the next key level, which is the POC. And there's also a couple of interesting levels here. You also have the anchored VWAP here from the downtrend, right, coming right in on that zone. And then also, if you guys remember last week, right, as we were getting the correction down here, right, the biggest level to look at over the weekend, in my opinion, was very similar to kind of what we're looking at right now, which is you don't want to get back inside this value area, right? We're getting the breakout, right? Market structure has changed on the medium time frames. Money flow is coming up on the higher time frames. If we want to see the continuation of the uptrend, you do not want to break back down. Whoops. You do not want to break back down into this area of value. So value area high is the biggest level of support. We also had a golden pocket retracement in there as well, right, giving you some confluence. And it's going to be, and on top of that, right, we also had finally looked to flip this massive anchored VWAP pulled up here from about $90,000, right, $90,300. And I'll just turn off, let me turn off the range so you guys can get a clear view of this. Come on. Where'd I have that anchored VWAP? Bear with me here, guys. I don't know what folder that was in. You know what? I'll just re-pull it. Bada boom. Right, this is major resistance. On these anchored VWAPs, right, as long as you remain below it, right, downtrend's likely to continue. We faked it out. Obviously, we caught that short back to the downside. But once we got that correction, right, that anchored VWAP from $98,000, or I'm sorry, 90,300 was sitting right there as well, right? Like, this is a key area to flip. And on top of that, right, of course, that was confluent with the value area high. This is very nice with money flow coming up, with the market structure changing. This is nice, right? So, again, that's what gives me the bias of looking, or gives me the option to look for those higher lows and higher highs, right? And again, you have the low volume, the liquidity above, and I do think if we can continue pushing up here, things can get very exciting very, very quickly. And to be honest, the $80,000 level, even the 786 at about $84,000, like really the bigger level of resistance up there, in my opinion, is sitting up towards the previous value area, right? Which sits at about $86,000. You start pulling up your high time frame resistance levels, right? All that resistance is sitting all the way up here. And you pull up the visible range volume profile, right? Zoom out a bit. Of course, right? The infamous low volume gap. Come on, volume. There we go, right? Like pretty big low volume gap. You got a little bit of a peak in volume at about 84K, but then all those horizontal levels come in at about $87,000 to $90,000, right? So again, not a lot of resistance above here, which is why I'm not that interested in just continuing to catch a reverse knife here and chop up my account, trying to catch the short when I know there's not that much resistance above us from a higher time frame perspective, right? So hopefully this makes sense to you guys. My overall plan is to just continue to hold my long, and of course my shorts from much higher, but and again, guys, like these shorts, I already have massive profits locked in. So if I stop out of those, I'll get stopped out in thousands and thousands of dollars in profit. So I'm not really worried about those. But for the most part, like in this current situation, I'm just holding the long. If we come down, I'll just look for, maybe I'll compound the long, or I'll look for a new long position. And I'll just hold those two longs for the bigger breakout. And again, the reason for that is the higher time frame money flow. That 16-hour is looking good. We talked about when we look for the breakouts of the ranges here, right? How am I going to identify if this has a bigger chance of breaking up or down? Look at your money flow. Money flow indicates the overall trend. It's not going to range around forever, right? Price ranges about 80% of the time, but it's not going to range forever. And of course, the beauty of the volume profiles and trading the way that we trade here in the CandleMafia is the fact that, you know, when you get that big breakout to the upside, oftentimes we're holding the long from the low, right? And if this did not play out, right, and we continued to break down here and go down towards $60,000, well, guess what? We were holding the short from the high. This is like the best way to trade, in my opinion, because even if the confirmations or the confluences don't play out, let's just say this money flow fake back out into the red and we continue down, we would still be profiting massively on that way down below $60,000. Kind of feels like cheating, to be honest. But that's what I'm looking for. Keep these key levels on your chart. Not really a huge update locally from what we looked at yesterday, but at major resistance, if we get the pullback, CME gap, daily MPOCs, weekly MPOC, value area high retest, macro value area high retest, that's what we want to stay above. We definitely do not want to break back down into those ranges. We want to stay out of this value area. The hope is, right, this value area locally and then this value area in full, right, this larger value area. The hope is to get rejected or impulse out of this volume profile and then go seek out previous fair value, right, which does technically the next major area of fair value sits up here. And I guess one other thing we can look at here is, do I still have this, the 80K range? Yeah, which comes in right towards that $81,000 level. So we'll cross this when we get there, but you know, we already have those levels of resistance between $79,000 and $81,000. That is also the value area low of this previous range. This is technically also a value area, but I don't want to over confuse people. We already have the levels there, so you don't have to really pay attention to that just yet. It'll just give us good context on the way up if we break above that. So we'll see. We'll see what happens, guys. If I was not in a long, I would hope for something like this, and I would definitely be interested in this. But if it doesn't happen, right, well, we'll just hold that long position. That's the benefit of being positioned correctly in those long positions. So there we go. I'm going to come into chat here real quick before we jump into the higher time frames. We'll also take a look at Ethereum, which, again, not really too much to update there on Ethereum either, right? We looked at this yesterday. There's your low volume gap. Resistance, resistance, we break in, we start to get the bigger move up. Larger target does still sit here at about 24.33. So I'll cover this in more detail in a minute, but I do want to go over those higher time frames. But let's come on into the chat. I'm going to take a sip of that Aztecian Cactus Black Coffee real quick. XRP is garbage. Shout out to Visionary. Let's see. 82K will be hard to break. Potentially. It's definitely not the biggest level above us, but it is definitely local resistance. Shout out to, shout out to Hornbill Gaming. I called you Horrible Gaming yesterday. I'm sorry about that. I read that completely wrong. Said, bro, ETA, please. Yeah, we'll jump into ETH in just a minute. I feel like the market never does anything when Frankie is live. I mean, to be honest, guys, from a higher time frame perspective, I know this feels super exciting, but I don't know. The market's just kind of boring right now. It's like typical bear market behavior. Speaking of bear markets, we'll talk about that in just a minute. If this, then that. Shout out to Expat. Yeah, 100%, bro. I mean, this is how trading works. It's, my personal biases, my attachment for, like, always just, at the end of the day, I always want Bitcoin to go up. That never means, right? Like, this perfect example right down here, or right up here, right? It's like, you have a low volume gap. Of course, I want Bitcoin to go higher, and I was not, right? Full disclosure, I was not holding a long position. Do I let the FOMO get me? Absolutely not. Do I just long here because we're pumping? Absolutely not. Do I understand that if we continue up, we can get a big pump? Yes. I do not make decisions based off of that, right? If it happened, it happened, right? I just wasn't long from the low, so I missed that trade, and that's okay, right? I have the skill of finding high probability trade setups that will repeat over time, right? And I will just wait for the next setup. But what do I do up there, right? If this, then that. If we broke above, then I would look for the move up there. And people will say, well, then what do you do? Do you long? No, I just let it move, right? Price is always going to move up and down. The faucet is always on. All we need is the ebbs and flows, right? All we need is the volatility. I don't necessarily, just because if I missed a long here, doesn't mean I'm never going to make money. Just because I missed this long here doesn't mean that I didn't make thousands of dollars on the drop back down, right? So what do I do here? I do not FOMO long. We hit into our key level of resistance. We had the confirmations. I take the short, right? If this, then that. But what if it didn't play out? Well, I just lose that trade, right? It's name of the game, or part of the game, I should say. Shouldn't be the name of the game. So, yeah, my personal bias is, like, I just don't care, right? So here, if we break up, well, great. Long continues to play out, right? We'll let that continue up. I'll profit off that. And if it comes down, again, I will be very interested in holding these key levels for a higher low. If they fail, well, we just continue down. And, of course, in that case, I will still have my shorts from higher. So, let's see here. Love what you're doing. Shout out to the Candy Over. Oh, the Candy Lover. I thought that said the Candle Lover. Shout out to you, brother. Welcome in. Welcome in. Shout out to Perry. Welcome in. I would like 68K again. Yes, I know. Again, let me late AF. Sorry. Shout out to Jesse. No problemo. I FOMO'd into a short. Need BTC to go down. Shout out to Crefo. I mean, to be honest, right? Like, I would say it's valid. Like, the overall, I'm not saying this is guaranteed to play out, right? But, again, in my opinion, right, the invalidation, and it's kind of difficult up here, guys, because of the low volume situation. And, like, just for what it's worth, how would I treat this if I were holding a short from here? How would I treat it, right? Well, obviously, I would be very careful around the support that I'm interested in. But then once that fails, right, you have the very, very clear plan of a potential value area fill, right? PLC would be the next, value area high would be the first target, right? Technically a little above that on the start of that zone. Once you break below that and it fails, right? Well, what am I going to do? I'm going to look down towards the PLC as the next target. Value area low is the next target. At that point, it would be multiple take profits locked in. Stop loss to break even. If it decides to melt down below 60K into our bigger support levels down here, macro supports between 58 and, say at 55K, well, guess what? That winner can continue to run. And for me personally, right, the invalidation here would be the high. But again, like, I hate to sit up here and just try to talk about every single scenario. You could potentially, I don't really see, I mean, yeah, we'll see. It depends. I would be more interested in, like, this failing and coming down. But at the end of the day, right, like, if we just get another rip above the high, could get some 2-hour bearish divergences if you don't get the red dot, sooner than later. And again, I'm not just going to be like, oh my God, I got to catch that. Oh my God, I got to catch that, right? But again, right, like, you just have to have a plan. Like, I'm not going to care, right? If I come up to the chart tomorrow, and again, it has a lot to do with the way I'm positioned. If this winds up being the top, we take out the high again, bearish divergences, then we go down. Like, I don't care. I don't need to make money here. I'm already making money here. And then if that fails miserably, right, and then it just comes all the way back down, I still have my shorts from higher. So we'll see. We'll see. Again, I would be looking personally at the failed auction setup. Let's see. On vacation, dude. Help me send it, bro. Pump my bags. Shout out to South Texas. Welcome in, brother. I'll try my best. I'll try my best. Question about the time frames. Is there any reason for looking at the time frames you do? Shout out to Mind. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, right, like if I look at the 30-minute and you're looking at the 45-minute, I mean, for me personally, like a lot of these time frames are, you know, how do I say this, right? Like time frames, you have high time frames, medium time frames, and low time frames. That's how I look at it, right? If I were to break down lower time frames, I would say between the 1 minute and the 30-minute are kind of lower time frames. Maybe that extends up to like maybe the 45-minute. And then medium time frames for me, right? These are kind of just arbitrary. Medium hourly time frames for me is like 1 through the 4 hour. And then, yeah, I don't know. I don't really have like a by definition explanation for that, right? But like you just have low time frames, medium time frames, and then higher time frames. But for me personally, I like to separate these into like higher hourly time frames, 10 through the 16 hour, medium time frames, maybe the 1 through the 8 hour, right? And then my low time frames are usually like maybe the 30, 45 minute to the 1 minute. The way I do it, right? And then you have your high time frames, which is like the dailies and the weeklies and the monthlies, right? So the way I do it is like, you know, obviously a weekly bearish divergence is going to play out in a massive way, right? The higher the time frame, the stronger the signal, right? Which is, you know, weekly bearish divergence was one of the things that we were looking at up here, potentially indicating that the top was in, right? Weekly bear div is very likely to give you because it's such a high time frame, a large percentage drop, or over a 50% drop, right? Now you could look for a 5-minute bearish divergence, right, and I'll just show you here. Just trying to find like a quick little 5-minute bear div here real quick. All right, here's a 5-minute bearish divergence. Higher highs, lower highs, right? That also gives you a correction down, but a 5-minute bear div is not going to give you a 50% correction, right? It's going to give you like a 2% correction, give or take. So higher time frames, more significant signals. Lower time frames, less significant signals. And the way I kind of handle that within my trading plan is like I use the higher time frames as my like trading environment, right? If the weekly bear div is printing, I'm expecting a very bearish environment over a long period of time. So I'm going to be favoring shorts in that environment, right? I'm going to be greedy with the shorts, conservative with the longs. I still take longs in these scenarios, but I understand that like longs from here are going to be lackluster for lower highs and lower lows because of those weekly bearish confirmations, right? So sometimes I'll find a setup, right, looking at a 4-hour time frame, and then I zoom down to those lower time frames to find my entry signal. So if you watch the beginner series, it'll kind of explain that. I have a video on time frames. But yeah, hopefully that makes sense for you. Let's see. XRP to 589. Yo, I don't know what's XRP's been getting a lot of hate and love in the chat lately. But anyway, real quick, guys, I do want to talk about this. I know a lot of people, right? And especially if you're, obviously this is a trading channel. My expertise here is trading, right? But I know a lot of people are here, right? Is the bottom in? Are we going lower? Are we going to 30K? And you guys will know my thought process for a very long time now has been that a lot of the, let me actually just go ahead and hide the TA here and just kind of talk to you guys from a higher time frame perspective. And I'm actually going to pull up the Bitstamp chart actually so we can get a little bit more price history. You guys know, we took a look at this yesterday. We took a look at it on another live stream maybe last week. One of the big things that we look at, right, for the bear markets is the weekly money flow crossover, right? So I'm going to show you a few things, right? Weekly money flow crossovers, once those happen, right, it is typically an indication that you're in a bear market. And once you get that big first capitulation, you are either, right, historically at the bottom, right, or very close to it. And we also showed this for people who don't use Market Cipher from an RSI perspective, right? And I'll just mark these out. Oversold RSI, oversold RSI, weekly money flow crossover, oversold RSI, weekly money flow crossover, weekly money flow crossover, RSI. When we look at this from a high time frame perspective, guys, and I just want to put this into perspective for you because Just like at the top, when people say the bull market is just starting, and I don't say that as a generalization, I say that as literally on this push up, people saying the bull market is just starting. This, I don't know how people come to that conclusion when the bull market starts down here, right? Massive bull market. There is no world that exists where I would say the bull market is starting here. And oftentimes I have to kind of be the bad guy and say, hey guys, this could be the top, right? The same thing happens in bear markets. Down here, people wanted $8,000. Up here, people wanted $100,000. We did not get 100K. We did not get 8K. This is why I do not listen to the crowds. I do not listen to the emotional sentiment of people online or anything like that. I just look at the charts. I compare it to what has happened in the past. We look at the technical confirmations. The chart is the truth. So I know there's a lot of debate here whether we are going to $30,000 and the bear market is, we're kind of just starting it, right? Or if we are getting closer to the bottom. And I do want to preface this whole thing with $30,000 is a valid target. Right? If the 4-year cycle were to play out exactly like it has in the past, $30,000 is a valid target. This is not my base case, right? It could become the case if we see more information develop here, if we do not hold our key levels that we're looking at down below, specifically $50,000 to $47,000, that losing that level would be very, very bearish, and I would expect then there to be a higher probability of $30,000. But right now, when we look at all of the high time frame indicators, when we look at the money flow, market cipher B, the momentum waves, the RSI from a very simple perspective, every time you get a weekly money flow crossover, and I know I've covered this a bunch of times, I want to pull those fractals with you guys. I want to show you why I am saying 2026 bottom watch and why I am not saying 2026 bear market has just begun, right? Weekly money flow crossover actually happened right here, right? I'll zoom in here. This is 2014. Weekly money flow crossover happens right here. At this point, you expect lower highs and lower lows. You're expecting the bear market to continue. Obviously, I was not here in 2014. I was not in crypto. I did not on my YouTube channel. But just showing how the indicators play out. Weekly money flow crossover, lower highs, lower lows on a weekly time frame, indicating massive drops to the downside. You eventually wound up getting like a 67% drop down. Bitcoin was a different animal back here. But at the end of the day, weekly money flow crossover, bear market's here, right? You're in a bear market. You're looking for that. Not looking for the bear market to begin. The bear market begins up here where the top is. Bear market. Bear market. Once that money flow crosses into the red, you get that last capitulation down. You are very often close to the bottom or the bottom is in, right? When we look at the RSI is oversold. I know this is very elementary for a lot of people, but I think it just simplifies it. RSI hits the oversold level, right? This is not the time to say the bear market is just beginning, right? This is the last capitulation down before accumulation begins, right? So right here, of course, you expect another drop to the downside. That's fine. But you are not saying the bear market is beginning. The bear market began up here. This is how you become a late bear, right? If you're thinking, oh my God, the bear market's beginning, what are you anticipating? You're anticipating the continuation of the downtrend, not the start of accumulation, right? That is what you want to be looking for, not financial advice. But weekly RSI taps the oversold level, right? And then eventually, I mean, technically, the real oversold condition is right there, right? What happens on that oversold condition? The bottom is in. This happened one time. The other two times, so this is 2014, right? Oversold RSI, bottom is in. Weekly money flow crossover, the last capitulation, the bottom was in. Bring it back to 2018. Oversold RSI, right here. This does not happen very often, right? Oversold RSI, bottom is in, right? And one of the nice things here was that you did have the bullish divergence on the daily, right? You come down, again, looking at market cipher B. Weekly money flow crossover, one last capitulation. Is this the start of the bear market? Weekly money flow crossover, last capitulation. If you think the bear market starts here, you're looking for lower highs, lower lows, the continuation of the downtrend. That was obviously not the case, right? You were better off, right? What would have been the better case here? Weekly money flow crossover, last capitulation. Yes, you went lower, but you're better off looking for accumulation. Oversold RSI, bottom is essentially in. Let's bring it to 2021. Weekly money flow crossover, you're expecting the one big capitulation. There it is. Is the bottom in? No. But is this the start of the bear market? At this point, if you're saying this is the start of the bear market, you're expecting a large continuation of the downtrend. This is not the start of a bear market. This is the ending of a bear market. Money flow crosses red, big capitulation, RSI is oversold. Yes, the bottom was not in, but again, what did you lose this low by? 13%? Right? So this is not the start of the bear market. What is this? Right? In hindsight, it's very easy to look at this. It's the end of the bear market. Right? Now, I'm not here to say the bottom is in or, this is guaranteed to play out again, but this is just the facts, right? This is this is how I come to the conclusions that I come to. So, oversold RSI. Is this where bear market's beginning? No, it is ending and you start the accumulation phase. Let's bring it back here. What do we have happening right now? Oversold RSI, right? And again, I'm not saying, just like in 2022, I'm not saying you can't go lower. But is this, right, going to be the start of the bear market? Well, was it the start here? No. All right, I'll just mark it to the RSI. Was it the start of the bear market here? No. Was it the start of the bear market here? No. Was it the start of the bear market here? No. So, to me, right, it doesn't logically make sense to say that the bear market is starting here. I think a lot of people feel this, right, that you've gotten the big drop down, like, all right, finally we're in a bear market. And we talked about this before we got the big drop down that we were looking for, to psychologically prepare the mafia for kind of what these bottom formations start to feel like, right? Everyone starts to get bearish, and they think, oh, my God, the bear market's starting. This is the start of a massive downtrend. It's never indicated that. Market Cipher B has never indicated that. There's your weekly money flow crossover. There's your big capitulation. There's your oversold RSI. Has this ever been the start of a bear market? No. It has been literally 3 out of 3 times the end of the bear market. Now, again, I don't want to get too super, I'm a trader, right? It's always like the market has a element of randomness to it. So if we go down to 30K, right, this is definitely, a possibility. There's a couple of things, you can make an argument for 30K being the higher probability case. For me personally, this is how I come to my conclusions, right? Down here, why was I comfortable buying the bottom of the bear market, which now we can see was the bottom of the bear market? Well, it's because I did the same thing I just did, right? Just on the previous 2 cycles. Weekly money flow crossover, big capitulation. Anytime that weekly money flow crossover crosses into the red, once that big capitulation happens, it's a good time to DCA into the market. I've talked about this many a times. Weekly money flow crosses into the red, and of course, DCA in, yes, you go lower, right? But it's dollar cost average. It's accumulation. And I'm going to pull the fractals in a second. Weekly money flow crossover, big capitulation. This is, in my opinion, the place where I have historically looked to dollar cost average into the market, right? And again, 3 out of 3 times, right? Not where the bear market begins. And I'll just leave this data here, right? You don't have to take this. You don't have to listen to it. This is just what I look for and how it's played out for me in the past. So I think it's very easy to see this, right? The oversold RSI does not happen often. We have one here, one here, one here. 3 times. All of them had marked that we were either the bottom was in or we are getting close. You're going to be better off looking for a bottom, not looking for the bear market to begin, right? This is the psychological preparation, right? Especially if we get some kind of bearish narrative and we get one more drop to the downside. Essentially, my stance right now is either, right, and I want to be careful about how I say this, either, right, just historically looking at the information, the bottom is either in or it is close, right? Again, I'm not calling the bottom guaranteed here. I'm personally uncertain here, right? But one thing I do know, it is a much better case for me to be looking for a bottom than say that the bear market is just starting. And I think that's clear by looking at the information. This is not my personal bias. I guess it is my personal bias, right? But it's not based off nothing, right? And I try very hard to just show this stuff in full transparency. This is how I make my decisions. I'm not leaving anything back, right? So if we get another drop to the downside, I will be viewing that as a very large buying opportunity, right? And of course, right, I do have a plan. If we do end up losing the 47K POC, right, maybe we come down here, right? If this fails, right, this opens up the door for me. It's an if this, then that statement. If this does not hold, if the chart looks like trash down here, which we will very likely be able to tell based off the money flow, based off the technical indications, if we lose that level, then 30K becomes very likely, right? We have never, I believe, this would be a 55% drop below the previous all-time high. We have never seen a 55% drop below the all-time high. Here, we dipped below it about 20%. Currently, we have dipped below it about 11%, right? So I think there's an argument there that you could go a little bit lower. But we have never gone 55% below the previous all-time high, ever. So, again, this is just my thought process. So if we get that bigger move down between, again, that big support level between, $58 and $55,000 with the line in the sand at $47,000, this is, even if we get something like this, right, could just be accumulation. And this is where I want to pull the fractals. I'll pull it here, right? I'm actually going to pull these on the daily time frame just to get a little bit more detail. Right, I'll pull it from the last capitulation to the top. Right, here's the 2022 bottom. $2018, because there's many different ways that this can look. I don't know, right? I'm just going to preface this. I don't know how this is going to look. I have preferences on how I would like it to look to be very confident that the bottom is in. Hopefully that's somewhere near the top. Close enough. And again, I'm not looking for these to match identically, but we'll start off with the 2015 bottom. In this case, we did not get any bullish divergences. Nothing, right? Let me just resize this a little bit. We did not get any kind of bullish divergences down here, right? I probably shouldn't have pulled this all the way to the bull market high because I can't adjust this as much. In 2015, we bottomed out on the capitulation. There was no bullish divergences. And in this case, right, it's very hard to say, oh my God, we have massive confirmation the bottom is in. But the bottom is still in, right? You don't need those bullish divergences. This is the two things that I'm looking at. You're either going to have the bottom in, right? Like I said, either the bottom is in or you're close, right? Either the bottom is in on the capitulation and you are starting an accumulation phase to then eventually go back into a bull market, or it could play out. These are the two main ways, right? You're either going to get the bottom confirmations or you're not. 2 out of the 3 times, we've gotten the bullish divergences. So it's kind of hard to say which one's more likely. In 2017, we had the capitulation, and we did put in another low on the daily, giving us a nice bullish divergence on that daily, right? This is last capitulation, oversold RSI. Sure, you put in another low, but what happens? The RSI puts in a higher low. You get a bullish divergence, right? We did not get that currently. We do not have the bullish divergence because, of course, we did not put in a new low, right? We stayed up here. So right now, if the bottom is in, it's looking a lot more like 2015. But I prefer a case like this because it's easier for me to say, hey, now we have massive bullish confirmation, a nice bullish divergence, money flow starts coming back up. It's a little more confident to say the bottom is in. In 2015, you kind of just go into that accumulation and then eventually send it to the upside. So again, I don't know which way this is going to play out, but the reason I prefer this, and then like the closest, or the most beautiful bottom in my opinion, which played out exactly how we were looking at it last cycle, which takes a little bit longer to play out. And I would say like this price action to me looks a lot similar to 2022. The most similar to 2022 is you get that big capitulation and we could be in a phase like this. Right? Yes, you are looking for a bottom, but this is not the start of the bear market. Yes, you go lower, but it is not the start of the bear market. Right? And again, I'm not going to line this up. I can't line this up perfectly. But if we did something like this, right? Let's just say we come back down, we take out the low. Where does this bring us? The next major levels of support are sitting between 55 and 58K. To me, this would look beautiful. If we can get a weekly bullish divergence or something really nice into those next major key levels down below, in my opinion, right? Like any way it plays out, right? This is the lens that I'm looking at the market through, not through the lens of, oh my God, the bear market has just started. The bear market has been here. And in my opinion, this is similar to 2021, where in 2024 was the true all-time high, right? This was the peak in sentiment. This was the peak euphoria. Oh my God, pro-crypto president. Oh my God, meme coin's going crazy. The president just made a meme coin, right? All of the personal indicators that I have, friends texting me, what should I buy? What altcoins? We're in a bull run. Oh my God. And to me, this was more of like a dead cat bounce, right? To print that bearish divergence, very similar to 2021. This looks very similar, right? Not just from a technical perspective, but from a sentiment perspective. Peak euphoria, lower euphoria, or peak interest, lower interest. It's literally a bearish divergence from social sentiment to price action. It's the same thing up here. And where does everybody start to get really bearish, right? Oh my God, Terra Luna collapses. It's all going to zero. Now we're in a bear market. No, we're actually accumulating. So this is good, right? Because now it's like, we're not looking for the bear market to begin. We talked about this all the way up here. Oh my God, this could be the big drop, right? Of course, we made a bunch of money on that. But in my opinion, right, not financial advice. I'm not telling you to buy Bitcoin right now. You're going to miss the boat. Again, you have to make your own financial decisions. But to me, right, just to kind of put, when I talk about the bottom, you're always going to have people say, oh, 10K incoming, 20K incoming, whatever it is. They do this every single time. And I said this at the top when people said the bull market was starting. I said this at the bottom when people called for 8K. I even said it up here when people were calling for 100K. Now, that's not to say that I'm guaranteed to be right? There is a situation where we can go down to 30K. If the 4-year cycle just completely repeats, 30K would be, between 40 and 30K would be a big target. But it's not my base case right now. I am, again, 2026, bottom watch. We also have some very interesting key levels on a high time frame sitting just underneath us. And to add to that, we also have the 200-week moving average. So for me personally, guys, my plan right now is 30K possible? Yes. My base case is if we get another big drop down, let's wrap it up. If not, maybe it's already happened. If it plays out like 2015, it could already be in. And I know everybody wants to know guaranteed. The truth is, guys, I do not know. But I have a plan, and this is exactly what I'm looking at. Nothing held back. I'm not like watching some secret indicator off on the side. This is what I look at. If we get one more capitulation down, I will see that as a massive opportunity. That's what I'm looking at high time frame. If we have to come down and deal with potentially losing 47K, the plan changes. You can either, right, there's many different plans you can do for long-term bags. Of course, DCA is the way. But I think the general thought process here is, again, remember, the oversold weekly RSI, the money flow crossover into the red. This is all, even when you look at it from a moving average perspective, Bitcoin is not at all-time highs right now, right? We're down 50% off the all-time high. And you have to make a decision personally, right? What is your plan for Bitcoin? Are you thank you, Tony, or whoever just did that. When we look at this, anytime you come into these, let me pull up the Bitstamp chart. Down here, we slipped the 200-week moving average, right, by 30%. In 2018, you bottomed out on the 200-week moving average, right? You slipped below it here, but again, the bottom was still in. 2015, you basically bottomed out, slightly below the 200-week moving average. We don't have the information. But you just have to start thinking about this from a psychological perspective, because there's going to be a lot of people out there that are like, oh my God, the bear market's here. We're going to 10K. We're going to 3K. Just like at the top, the bull market is just starting for a lot of people, right? You don't want to be a late bear. To me, I will change it if we end up losing that 47K level, right? I will say to myself, okay, now 30K is much more likely. That is just a technical reality. But again, you have to have a plan there. You can have stops on your spot bags, right? Just take the loss if you go too low, or you could just, weighted dollar cost average in. But just to give like the general perspective here, guys, in these conditions, it has never marked the beginning of the bear market. It has always began either the bottom is in or the start of an accumulation phase. I'll just leave that there, right? Maybe this is wrong. Maybe we go down to 10K. I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. I could be wrong again. We were spot on here. Doesn't mean I'm going to be right again here. But the best thing I can do is share with you what I do, right? And you could take that information, apply it into your own strategies, apply it into your own long-term plan, and hopefully it helps you out, right? But I think a lot of people don't understand how the charts work. At the end of the day, look for a spot on the weekly time frame where you were oversold and it was not a major bottom, right? Or you were not close to a major bottom, right? Again, it doesn't mean the bottom is in, right? You can still go lower. And maybe it's a big, scary drop, right? But at the end of the day, Fear and greed index is super low, just to kind of get you guys psychologically prepared. We could wake up tomorrow. This could be a fake out. We could be going lower. That would not shock me. But it would just they would not step on that idea, right? I just worry that a lot of people are thinking the bear market is just starting. That's not my personal stance. So there you go. That's my thoughts on the higher time frames. Hopefully it helps some of you guys out. Every bear market has lasted 300 days. Yeah, let me pull up the cycle chart here real quick. So there are things, right? Let's see here. Let me pull up. When you start looking at the 4-year cycle, again, I am not married to the 4-year cycle, right? I'm a technical trader, right? But the 4-year cycle has been very accurate, right? 1,428 days top to top, 1,421 days top to top. I use it in my analysis, right? But I'm not married to the idea. And to be honest, right, like my general preference is that we go lower. I know people don't want to hear that, right? But that's my preference. I would rather come lower. But the let me see. I think I have the bottoms here as well. So if you measure the, from the top to the bottom, right, in 2022, you could say it was 588 days, depending on how you define the top, right? Like this was the euphoric top. This was a dead cat bounce. If you measure it from the numerical price top, 378 days, 2017, 364 days, 2015. I have this marked off somewhere in a folder. Top to bottom. There we are. Right, 413 days, 364 days, 378 days, 371 days would bring you all the way into October. So if you want to follow the 4-year cycle, right? Well, I said this yesterday, right? Well, there's no reason if you're expecting that, right? There's no reason to even be looking to buy. You just be like, all right, well, hey, it's going to continue down. It's going to continue down, right? I'll have plenty of time to buy. It's going to go way lower. Maybe that's the case for 30K, 40K. I think that is definitely possible, right? I'm not going to say that it has to play out the way that I'm looking at it. But again, I just can't ignore that two things can be true at the same time. Yes, every bear market has lasted 371 days, or about 370 days, right? This one was 413, close enough. That is true. It is also true, right? You just can't ignore the fact that oversold weekly RSI has literally almost always indicated the bottom, right? And this is not me trying to call the bottom, right? It's just to put into perspective over time where you are, right? You're better off looking for accumulation, right? Whether it brings you down to 47K, 50K, or even 30K, right? Again, that's not my base case. It is definitely an option, right? But I need to see more things on the chart. Yes, this is true, but I also just can't ignore these weekly RSIs, the weekly money flow, all that other stuff. Kind of like up here, right? There were also some mixed things, right? A lot of people talk about what if this happens, what if that happens. Sure, valid information, but you also cannot ignore the massive technical confirmations, right? Which, to be fair, we do not have right now, right? Which is why I do prefer to come lower, print some of those divergences. Again, I don't know exactly what it's going to look like. Nobody does. If they're telling you they know exactly what it looks like, they're lying to you. It's just like up here, right? There's an argument for higher, but you also cannot ignore the technical confirmations. As a technical trader, I put more weight on the technical confirmations, right? If we were seeing these confirmations for 1,200 days from top to top, I would still be looking for that to be a major top. It just happened to be perfectly lined up with the 4-year cycle, right? Again, like very creepily. 1,428, 1,421. Pretty crazy, right? But there were bullish biases here as well, right? But what do I say when I get up here? Like that could be true, but I cannot ignore the bearish confirmations up here, right? You could say, hey, I have a bullish bias. I'm a little cautious around those bearish technical confirmations, right? It's like me. I am aware of these bullish oversold weeklies, right? The money flow in a very similar place that it has been at bottoms before. But I also understand that, like, hey, like there are two things to be true at the same time. 4-year cycle wise, if you just want to listen to that, well, in that case, don't even worry about buying until October. But you do risk the fact that maybe the technical confirmations play out, right? You have to take two things. You have to weigh those options, right? And then have a plan, right? And again, there's many different ways you could do it. You could do a weighted dollar cost average, right? This way. And again, I'm not super confident, right? I'm not fully in the market right now. It's not like I waited for this level and just bought my entire bag here, right? It's a slow dollar cost average. If we go to lower, it's a weighted dollar cost average. I'll buy bigger and bigger percentages, right? Even if we go down to like 37K, 30K, right? My average entry price will wiggle down. It will wiggle down. It will wiggle down, right? I'm not worried about catching the knife on the bear market bottom, right? When I look back and Bitcoin is sitting at, I don't know, $200,000, 300,000, whatever it is, right? I'm not going to care if I bought here, 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 here. I just want a nice average entry price. I did not catch the bottom at $15,000. I started buying here, and then I bought lower and lower and lower and lower and lower and lower. I got an average entry price of about $21,000. When I'm up here, I didn't care that I didn't buy at 15K. I was happy that I had the general idea correct, right? So this is not me saying the bottom is in. It's not me saying you can't go lower, but I'm just trying to put into perspective what we have seen in the past and why I personally don't think this is the start of the bear market. I mean, at the end of the day, right, even if you went down to 30K, still not the start of the bear market. The start of the bear market is up here, right? So it's not, oh my God, bottom is in necessarily. It is, this is where you want to shift your mindset to, you know, if we get a more scary drops to the downside, you are already down 50%, right? You want to start looking for bottoms. Start at least getting interested, right? This is where I say, I always tell people, if we get another drop, people are like, it's a bear market, see you in 4 years, right? Like, just don't really know what's going on. And it's like, no. You've already endured a lot of pain. If we get another drop down, this is the time to pay attention, right? This is the time to start focusing, doubling down on your research, right? Doubling down on being interested, right? Not up here. Everybody just wants to buy up here, right? This is the time to pay attention. This is the time to focus. This is not the time to leave crypto. This is how everybody who makes money here and the people at the top are like, lucky for that guy, he got in early. And it's like, well, you endure all this pain and you pay attention down here. So there you go. Not really my personal opinion, right? I guess my personal opinion, but based off information. Price goes lower and the RSI makes a higher low. Guess what? That is a large, high time frame bottom confirmation. I would love that. I would love that. Either way, in my opinion, we are closer to this ending than it just beginning. It began up here. Technically, you could say it began up here. Let's see if we measure this from the euphoric top. 420 days into the bear market, right? In my opinion, right, it's like the bear market in 2021 pretty much started up here. Again, this is the euphoric top. This was a dead cat bounce to print that bearish divergence and bring you down for about a 567-day bear market. All right, if you measure that from the first top here, again, euphoric top, you know what was happening here. This was kind of like we didn't top on massive euphoria. We topped back here on massive euphoria. This was a dead cat bounce to print the bearish divergence, right? Could be closer to the end than people realize. Doesn't mean you can't go lower, right? But you could be closer to the end than most people realize. At the end of the day, most people, right? The one thing I will say is, I don't know. This would feel very easy to me, right? If the bottom is even, we go one more, if we bottom out of 55K, the one thing, like if I had to play devil's advocate against myself, this would be the easiest bear market ever. Like, so easy. This would be, let's just say we go down to 55K, right? A 56% correction. This is the one thing, right? If I were to play devil's advocate, this is the one thing. It's like 55% bear market. Like, that was a cakewalk, an absolute cakewalk. I mean, that's basically the same drop we got here, right? It's like we can endure that on Bitcoin. But again, if the 4-year cycle plays out, 30K can be in the cards. But as of right now, like you cannot ignore that we have retested the previous all-time high. We have come into major support. We have major support below. It's not until those things break where I would say it's a higher probability we go down to 30K. We won't know until it's in hindsight, right? But those are my thoughts. Let's see. Shout out to Flyfan said, again, I have to ask, who is going to sell us down to 30K? Seriously, who's left to sell? Shout out to Flyfan. I don't know. I never say never. There's been many times in crypto where I'm like, this can't go lower. Swoop. So, yeah. Buy high, sell low. Let's FOMO. Shout out to Yoda. Yeah. I mean, hey, who knows? To each his own. Shout out to Yoda. It is exactly a cakewalk bear market based on the weekly bull run. I don't know exactly what you mean by that. There's only one buyer. It's Michael Saylor. He'll buy it. I actually think he started to buy, which he's also known for openly buying tops, which is interesting. So I don't know if I would use that as a signal. 30K would be awesome, but we would probably not get that lucky. I would sell my home if so. I said that yesterday. Shout out to Jay FOMO. Yeah, if we go down to 30K, I'm selling my physical belongings to buy more Bitcoin. Well, I have cash to buy Bitcoin, but I would be trying to come up with, you might catch your boy Frankie Candles doing overtime to buy more Bitcoin at 30K. And again, like at the end of the day, guys, it's like, again, you have to have a long-term plan. Like for me, again, I've mentioned this many a times. I have a portion of my Bitcoin that I just will not sell, right? So like for me, I am buying this thing. I believe in Bitcoin, right? And I've also been through multiple cycles. Bitcoin has been dead 1,000 times in my career. Guess what happened every single time? It comes back. It's not a gamble, right? There's obviously a lot of research that goes into that for me personally. I believe in the next 5 to 10 years, Bitcoin is going to be above $60,000, right? So even if I were to, let's just say I did buy my whole bag here, we go about down to 30K, I bought more. I have a long-term viewpoint on Bitcoin, right? Obviously, I'm a trader. I'm a technical analyst. I try to get a little bit more accurate than that, and I have more advanced strategies than that. But at the end of the day, guys, Bitcoin is like the best performing asset in the world. I will always buy Bitcoin. They're not making any more of it. So, teach his own, right? At the end of the day, if you don't want to buy, don't buy. Wait for lower. If you don't get lower, well, you might miss the bottom. That's whatever. That is what it is, right? If you want to put your whole bag in here, which, again, I don't recommend dumping your whole bag in at any point. But if you put your whole bag in here, understand it could go lower. If you're willing to endure that, endure it, right? Like, no one can make those decisions for you. There's no guaranteed. A lot of people just want someone to say, that's it, bottom's in, buy it all, it's going back up. Don't worry, it's not going to be confusing. It's not going to be scary. There's always a risk, right? There's no, like, you got to risk it for the biscuit at some point. Shout out to 123 said, that's pretty sad that BTC is the same price it was 6 years ago. How is it the best performing asset? It's up 6 million% since inception, or at least since the data here. It's up, you compare it to, I think it's like, if you compare it to the S&P, right, it's like 8 to 10% a year. I think if you average that out on Bitcoin, it's like 50% a year, right? Again, markets go up and down, right? Oh, my God, it's back down to 60K. You could say the same thing here, right? Oh, my God, it's back down here. How is this how is this a good performing asset? Well, you're measuring it back to previous all-time highs in a bear market, right? Measure it from the bottom of the bear market to the top of the bull market. That's 2,300% in 1,200, 1,400 days, or 1,200 days, right? That's 500% in 1,000 days, right? Of course, if you measure it here, right, it's like it's down 50%. It's kind of crazy that this freaks people out, right? Like, we've endured much worse than this, right? It's like, and that's what they say, right? It's the worst performing asset ever. Oh, my God, Bitcoin's going to zero. It's like, zoom out. So, yeah. All right, let's take a look at Ethereum really quickly. Everybody hates the bear market, but this is when you accumulate all of your cheap assets. Yeah, exactly. That's what everybody says down here. What do we do down here? I mean, I was buying down here, and then people say, what's going on? This is the worst performing asset. Every time it pumps, it dumps. And it's like, yeah, that is analysis based on your position, right? You have to be positioned correctly to take advantage of the performance, right? You can't, if you buy up here, right, like, you have to imagine people who think Bitcoin's dead, they don't care, it's going to 5K, and they buy in up here or they buy in up here. When it dumps, they're like, what the heck? I bought in. I thought this thing was supposed to be pumping. It's like, well, dude, you bought a top, right? What happened? This thing, every time and then, they might sell their bag down here, lose a bunch of money, then it pumps, they buy it again, they get wrecked, right? That is a result of your decision, right? That is not a result of the performance of the asset. That's why I tell most people in my personal life, what should I do? What should I buy? Dollar cost average into Bitcoin over the next 15 years. That's boring. Okay, buy the top, sell the bottom. I don't know what to tell you. There's a high chance you're going to do that. Let's see. Ziva Crypto Girl in the chat. Shout out to Ziva. Welcome in. BTC is not for everybody. Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely not. But it's like that meme where they have like the two stands, right? It's like BTC $2, BTC 100K, right? There's like one guy in line when it's $2, and there's just like a whole line of people at 100K. This is why a lot of people, right, especially right now, feel horrible about Bitcoin, right? The people who are angry right now that Bitcoin is going down are the people who did not take advantage in the last bear market and were too greedy to take profits at the top. Or take any profits, right? Those are usually the people that are upset, right? I think a lot of the people that are upset here are obviously people who, right, I'm not upset. Why? Well, I bought the bottom of the bear market. Even if I didn't sell any of my Bitcoin, I'd still be in massive profit, right? So, yeah, that has a lot to do with positioning. Do I think memes will ever make a comeback? I think you're always going to be able to play the meme game. You're always going to be able to play the altcoin game. I think those environments shift over time. But I don't know. I think, I think having meme coins as an investment strategy, like a long-term investment strategy, is, personally for me, not a thing. Doesn't mean you can't make money with meme coins, right? But, yeah, I just wouldn't use it as a, I don't personally, I'm not super focused on meme coins. Let's see. And I also think separating your trading from your investing really helps a lot as well, right? Like making all the money that we made on the shorts, making the money on, even like short term, the long, locally, right? It's like, we don't. That's another thing. Like for the bear market, right? Like people want to leave. They think there's no money to be had. There's plenty of money to be had on Bitcoin as long as the asset continues to move, right? We absolutely cooked on shorts from here to here. Absolutely cooked on the shorts from here to here. And currently just locally cooking on this long from here, right? Bitcoin continues to range around for another year or whatever it is, right? There's plenty of money to be made, right? Clearly. So I'm not super, again, there's opportunity. This is why I love being a trader, right? Like even if the price goes down, right, there's still an opportunity to make money. That's the benefits of learning how to trade. But yeah, listen, people who say Bitcoin is a scam, I've gone through this, right? People say Bitcoin's a scam. You're never going to make money with that. Right? This is the same people that are like, hey, what should I buy when Bitcoin is at all-time highs? So it's just like textbook market psychology. Yeah, short the hell out of it. Make profits, roll it back into BTC at the bottom. It's the overall strategy there. But yeah, my biggest thing with, when I went to visit my family, they're all like, my sister was asking me like, I don't understand. Like, it's not real. It's just like, it doesn't exist. Why is it valuable? And I'm like, she's like, it's not limited. It's unlimited. And I'm like, no, that's literally what makes it valuable is that it is pretty much the only hard asset, is the only hard limited money, right? And I'm not here, I personally am not someone who's going to say, everyone's going to be using Bitcoin as cash, right? I don't think it's the same thing with gold, right? Gold started off as money, right? And I guess you could still consider it money, but no one's walking around with gold bars and paying themselves with gold bars, right? That would be super inefficient. Right? If you want to walk around with a bunch of money, you got to hold all this heavy metal. You could say the same argument for gold, right? It's not valuable like it, we're never going to use gold for money. Why would you do that when you could use paper money? Well, there's a problem with fiat money because they can just print it. You can't do that with Bitcoin. You can't do that with gold. There's a limited amount of it. That's what makes it valuable. So like people always take the argument of like, it's never going to be used as money. And it's like, that's not really my argument, man. I wouldn't argue that we're going to start walking around with gold bars either, even though it may have started like that, right? But those people, like, you're never going to get those people to understand. And again, that's okay, right? You could just buy stocks. You could buy something else, right? Let's see. Let's take a look at Ethereum real quick here, guys. So again, not really huge update here on ETH, right? We're just still kind of sitting in this low volume gap. Same thing as Bitcoin. We have the 10-hour money flow trending to the upside, indicating the breakout above this range would be higher than the absolute meltdown. Low volume gap above, resistance, resistance. We pop above the gap, start that fast move to the upside, next big level to the upside. In my opinion, right, just from an auction market theory perspective, here's your value. Here's your next area of value. Once you impulse out of a value area, the next likely place for price to gravitate to is going to be that previous value. The upper value area does sit between, call it 2430 and 2647. Value area at 2430, POC at 2520, value area high at, call it 2640, right? So doesn't mean we have to go directly up there, but at the end of the day, look at your money flow crossing into the green. Of course, this has a chance of faking out, but just at face value here, money flow indicates the overall trend. As long as that money flow stays in the green, we can look for lackluster pullbacks, higher lows, higher highs, and then that next major target zone would be sitting up here. Once we break out of that range, if we get the impulse, right, I will simply look to come up into that higher target. This is like Bitcoin at $86,000 in its upper value area, which sits right here. All right, it's the same. It's the best way to look at the market, in my own personal opinion. It's the exact way that we were able to make, or at least me personally was able to make tens of thousands of dollars on these shorts from higher. We anticipate money flow is going to continue the downtrend. We have our next major value area below. Big low volume gap between. We lose this support. We expect those shorts to continue to pay us out to fill that previous value. Here's your value area. Here's your value area. Once you impulse out of here, price is likely to gravitate here. Spot on, right? Same thing, right? If Bitcoin continues through the low volume gap, the next big value area sits up here around $86,000. That is the same thing as Ethereum sitting at the value area low here at 2,900. So this is kind of longer term. If we get the bigger squeeze to the upside, of course, if Bitcoin decides to get the fake out and we decide to break the lows first, that would obviously affect Ethereum as well, right? But with that money flow coming up, if we start to see that faking out, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But for the most part, right, money flow continuing to the upside here. 16-hour in the green, 21-hour in the green with our 2-week green dot printing. And the one thing here on Bitcoin and Ethereum is your daily money flow trying to trend up here. It's still pretty deep in the red, though. Be nicer if we were closer into the, I'd feel a lot better about this if that daily was closer to the crossover into the green. But at the end of the day, from a technical perspective, you're inside the gap. Key levels to the downside for me. Let's see the weekly MPOCs here. It's pretty much, it's going to be similar to Bitcoin. You got your weekly MPOC right here. On your value area high. Of course, there's no guarantee you're going to get all the way up there. So let me see the daily MPOCs real quick. You got one right here. You have one right here. You have one right here. Again, I can't promise you you're going to get that full pullback to the bottom of the range. Let me extend this real quick. Let's pull the fib from the impulse to the high. Right, so I'll give you the key levels here. On Ethereum, it's very similar to Bitcoin, right? Again, I can't promise you get the pullback, but big level to the downside. Let's see if that anchored VWAP lines up as well. Let's pull it from here. Not super confluent. You actually come down. Let's pull a fib here. Yeah. I mean, I would say the next target here, value area low, bottom of the golden pocket, and then you got the POC on the top of the golden pocket. This would be like the next target zone if we get the continuation up. Locally, you do have the daily MPOC sitting at 2274. Again, I would prefer a bigger pullback, but I would say the biggest key levels down below, daily MPLC at 2274. If that ends up failing, we lose this and get a big drop down, I would say the biggest, most confluent level of support would be the value area high, very similar to Bitcoin, daily MPLC, 2 daily MPLCs, golden pocket, weekly MPLC, and the value area high sitting between $2,100 and $2,063. Once you get accepted back in here, again, it's the same thing, right? You do not want to get accepted back into this value, right? Because that opens up the door to the value area low. And your PLC lives closer to the low as well, which could make the bottom of that range a stronger magnet. So key level number 1, start to lose that. Let's see something here. Yeah, we just don't have... Yeah, there's just no confluence there, right? Like you have a golden pocket sitting at about $2,200. There's just no real confluence there. You have the structural highs, I guess. It could be a support resistance flip. I'll mark that out real quick. But again, for me personally, I really like to see confluence, right? You just have so much more confluence down here. But just to give the local levels here. To the downside, daily MPLC 2274. The other bigger level is going to be sitting down here between 2100 and 2100 and 2063, and then to the upside, I would say your next big target is to get attracted towards that value between 2430 and 2450 or 2460. 4-hour green dot, VWAP trying to come up there. But again, same thing for the cool off. If you get a cool off on Ethereum, I'd be looking at that daily red dot, 16-hour red dot, 12-hour red dot. If you can get that in confluence with your 45-minute and 1-hour money flow crossovers into the red, I think that is where you see the start of the bigger continuation down, right, or correction down. But same bias as Bitcoin, right? I'd be looking for higher lows and higher highs until proven otherwise. 2433 is confluent with the 200-week moving average. That's actually interesting. Let's see here. There you go. Be the back test of the 200-week moving average as well. That's confluence right there, for sure. Shout out to who said that? Shout out to Vitrol. Oh, yeah, and FOMC tomorrow, guys. Volatility, obviously, very likely incoming. We'll see. Obviously, most of the time, this stuff is priced in. I always have the same stance on FOMC, right? Unless they say something that is completely unexpected, usually you just see crazy, wonky volatility. And I don't know. Recently, they've kind of all been nothing burgers, and everything's already been priced in, unless they come in with some kind of unexpected thing, like they just cut rates aggressively out of nowhere. That would obviously be bullish. I believe no change is the highest probability, so it's usually right like 90% of the time. Let's see here. I understand, but the environment of meme coins and how the Solana and Pump Fund ecosystem kind of ruin the altcoin market. Yeah, shout out to 123. That's pretty much my stance on that. Obviously, it just introduced, anybody can just super easily make a meme coin. It ruins all, like, spreads out the liquidity. You know, back in the day, right, there was it's very, it spreads out the liquidity, right? So, like, back in the day, there was obviously way less altcoins, right? So we were more in a situation where, like, rising tides lift. It's easier for rising tides to lift all ships. Now we're in a situation where you got millions of all these altcoins. Anyone could create an altcoin. The pump fund ecosystem sucks a lot of the liquidity that would go into altcoins. And I do think that affected alt season. I do think that affects the overall altcoin environment. I think we've entered into an environment now where you have to be a lot more picky about the altcoins that you pick, right? So, you know, again, like back in the day, you used to be able to just like throw a dart at a board, buy any meme coin. If Bitcoin pumps, ETH pumps, everything just goes up with it. I think we're in a totally different environment than that right now, which kind of stinks. I think you'll always be able to play the altcoin game. I think it just changes. Stupid pump fund. Yeah, shout out to Bailey. Yeah. Price is usually volatile for FOMC, but usually unknown outcome. This outcome is pretty certain. Yeah, if it's you just go to the FedWatch tool, and usually whatever that prediction is like, it's like right 99% of the time. But again, right, like where you see like that news like actually create the move is if it comes out and they do something like surprising. Right? If they say they're going to keep rates the same and then they aggressively cut them and everyone's like, whoa, that's usually where you'll see the news actually create a big move rather than it's already priced in. You get the volatility and then it just kind of settles out. I would say that happens more often than not. Yo, Visionary. He has like a bot that says XRP is trash like every 20 minutes. Shout out to Visionary Post. But yeah, that's what I'd be looking at on Ethereum. We can take a quick look at Solana. Again, guys, like also, actually, let's take a quick look at Pepe because we looked at Pepe yesterday. And we were looking at some key levels down below. This has not changed. Only difference is, again, I will say this every time. Never FOMO into long positions. Most people are going to have to learn this lesson the hard way. They're just going to have to FOMO in, get wrecked before they actually have the emotional and discipline to just be like, I don't care if this thing continues up. I got to wait for a pullback. We are not front running, but we are potentially on the way down to this next key level of support on Pepe. You have the Golden Pocket, 786, POC Confluence, anchored VWAP as well. You have a daily and a weekly MPOC here. I would say this is probably the most important support for Pepe. If we are going to see a continuation, right, we talked about this yesterday. You did have some nice weekly bullish divergences form here at the value area low. And from a general volume profile perspective, right, if you can remain above the POC, right, if we come down here, test the anchored VWAP, I'll drag this up to the anchored VWAP now that it's moved, right? This would be the biggest level of support on Pepe. If we can hold support here, right, maybe you wick down, you play around with that POC. It is the strongest level within the profile, the strongest magnet. Sometimes price will kind of chop around there, but you still end up getting the full fill of the range. But this would be the biggest level of support, in my opinion, to watch. 357 to 334, if we can hold that. That's your best chance of seeing a continuation through the profile, right? Stay above the POC. You could continue your way up towards the monthly MPOC in this Fibonacci retracement zone, sitting between, call it 418 all the way up to about 460. 6. Once you get above that, right, you would just look to fill that volume profile. It's a little bit of a wonky profile, so I would be careful around these resistances. But we are getting close to that key level of support. So we'll see what happens there. Again, could you bounce from where we are now? Yes, I prefer to see the key levels tapped. Frankie, you're the OG. Shout out to Tion Tusk. Shout out to you, brother. Welcome in. The OG. Guys, can someone tell me this? Does anybody know the answer to the question? My mom asked, someone said, I forgot what they were talking about, but they said OG. And my mom's like, what does OG mean? I hear everyone say OG. And I'm like, original gangster. What do you mean? And she goes, and then someone was like, it doesn't stand for original gangster. And I'm like, that is what it stands for, right? And then they were like, no, I think it's just an abbreviation for original. And I was like, it's a good argument. I don't know. I just always thought it meant original gangster. Does anybody know what OG actually means? Is it original gangster or is it just an abbreviation for original? Let me know. If anybody knows the real, somebody chat GPT that. Doesn't Pepe have the daily overbought? Yes. So it's the same thing with Bitcoin as well, right? Like this is just a level that I am watching, right? I would never, who said that? Visionary. Of course, I think you know this, but this daily red dot, same thing for as Bitcoin, right? That daily red dot prints, I think it's where you're going to get the bigger pullback. You're just hoping this holds. And at the end of the day, you can look at the, because the thought process here is like weekly bullish divergence is printing, right? If that weekly bull dip is going to play out, you're hoping this is the low, right? So the lowest I would really like to see this pullback go is going to be the 786 retracement, right? If you have to dip below that, technically the line in the sand would be about 332 at the value area low. But, I would never just set a limit order here, obviously. I think Visionary knows this. But if we came into this level, right, I would have to look at the daily, right? If we come into this level and the daily red dot is just starting to print, we're already at the 786, I'd probably focus more on the value area low, right? If we're at the value area low and that daily red dot is printing and 90-minute money flow is coming out, I would, in my opinion, say like, hey, I'm gonna sit out on this. Doesn't look very good. But this would be the key area of interest that I'd be paying attention to, right? Maybe we kind of wiggle around here. Daily red dot prints. It pushes us down here. And then while we're in here, if that daily red dot has already printed, confirmed, and we're about to print another green dot, right? Well, then I would be looking at like, hey, maybe this holds a support. It could be a higher low for another higher high. So we'll see what happens. But definitely the level that I'd be watching. And then again, value area low be the key support, line in the sand at about 322. AI gave me the neutral response, but most people use it as original plus respected plus been there from the start. Okay, shout out to Tony D. So both have the same meaning. Yeah, that's what I said. I said either way, it's kind of the same thing, but I just was wondering what the actual origin. OG is an abbreviation for original gangster, a slang term originating in hip-hop, which today means someone or something original, authentic, pioneering, or highly respected. It's used to describe. Shout out to Yin Yang. Let's go. The original sign of balance. Shout out to Yin Yang. I actually don't know if that's true. But yeah, that makes sense. So there we go. I guess we don't really know. I guess, yeah, original gangster. I'm keeping that. I'm sticking with that. I'm just going to tell people like I know. It is original gangster. It's not an abbreviation for original. Back in the day, we would say original gangster, but these days, it just means original. Okay, so the origin of it is original gangster. Okay, so I wasn't off. All right, let's see. Original GOAT, FFS. Shout out to K Diggity. Let's go. And shout out to Phoebe. Phoebe's on a play date. Guys, my sister. Man, my sister is crazy. My sister lives at a house. She's got like all this property. She's got horses. And she just got a pet cow, dude. She's got like a pet, like one of those shaggy cows. And she got a sheep. She didn't get a goat. I told her if she got a goat, I would sponsor it. I would take care of it. I would pay for the food. But she got a sheep. It's kind of dope. But the cow is sick. She just has a cow that like walks around her backyard. She was having a gender reveal party, and the cow was just like walking around amongst the party. And the sheep too, but the sheep was kind of skittish. Kind of wild. Oh, man. Let's see. So I would say the OG was from Ice-T's album Original Gangster. That makes sense. That's kind of where I was thinking. Highland cows are so chill. It is a Highland cow. Wow. Shout out to Austin. He knows what he's talking about. Yeah, they're also really expensive. I was like, how much do these things cost? And she was like, how much do you think it costs? I was like, I don't know. $800, $1,000, and she was like, no. They go between like 10 and like 300 grand, depending on like the breed you get. And I was like, oh my god. Yeah, sheep is meh. Meh. All right, so yeah, I think let's take a quick look at Bitcoin here. Just chopping. So overall, guys, just to recap here, mark these levels off on your chart. In my opinion, the biggest levels to look at, pull up the volume profile, right? If we get the bigger pullback, all right, currently we are attempting to flip this level into support. If we get the failed auction, right, which again, in my opinion, would be the loss of this zone here, like really 73,850. If we end up losing this level as support, flipping it into resistance with the 16-hour and the 12-hour red dot printing and the 45-minute and 1-hour money flow crossing into the red, I think that's your best bet to look for the continuation down. The biggest level that I am going to be interested in for a bounce is going to be right here. Just like we looked at in the beginning of the stream, you have the anchored VWAP, daily MPOC at about $71,560. Bottom of the, and then you have the golden pocket, the value area high, the 2 daily MPOCs, and a weekly MPOC. This sits between $71,600 and $70,057. This fails, I'm looking to just come back into the range. So for anybody, right, not telling you to enter a short, I'm just saying anybody who is short from up here, we'll say you're short from the top. Let's say you're short, maybe you take a failed auction, more like a failed auction setup. For me personally, I would be looking at this zone as the first major level of support. This would be a big area where if I were short, I'd be looking for a take profit. And then If that fails, next target becomes the POC. You have that beautiful blueprint on where price is likely to go next. POC at 68K, value area low at 66.1. Until we lose this at $65,000 last resort level of support, I will be looking at this through the lens of money flow coming up, lackluster pullbacks, higher lows, higher highs. Also have the CME gap in there. Also have the macro value area high range retest. We do not want to get accepted back into these ranges. If you want the continuation up, if we get the pullback, you got to stay above this level, in my personal opinion. So that's what I'll be looking at. We'll see if that 12 and 16-hour red dot wants to print, give us the failed auction. If not, next major target sits between really $78,000 and $80,000. And yeah. Shout out to Mr. Market. Said, okay, that settles it. I belong here. Dave Digital and I have the same birthday. And Frankie and his sister both raise English Longhorn cattle. Both raise English Longhorn cattle, maybe that means. Frankie, are you my long-lost brother? Shout out to Mr. Market. It may be. It may be. Should I get some livestock? Should I get some cows? I'd probably just have a farm with goats. If I was my sister, I would just have tons of goats. I asked her, I said, you got the cow, and I asked you to get goats. I'll sponsor the goat. I want to hang out with the goat when I'm here. And you got a sheep. Turns out they threw the sheep in for free. I'm not even kidding. They threw the sheep. They're like, if you buy the cow, they were picking between two cows, I think. She got the nicer one. They're like, if you get the nicer one, the more expensive one, we'll throw in a sheep for free. My sister lives in the weirdest world. I cannot relate to that. I'm like, I get deals on regular stuff. You're like getting like BOGO deals with livestock. I can't understand it. I have the same birthday as Rob. Shout out to the real K Diggity. So do I, bro. So do I. When you put the volume profile over March 2024 to November 2024 on the total market cap, we're about to hit the value area high. Thoughts? Yeah, it's like kind of the same thing as the kind of like the same thing as Bitcoin. Let me just hide all this local stuff. What do you say? March 2024 to November 2024. Where we at? I know you're talking about dominance, but March 2024. What do you say? February 2024? I guess this volume profile. Let me see this real quick. Has to be February 20. Oh, to November 2024. Yeah, so this volume profile here. I mean, at the end of the day, right, you can look at so many different volume profiles. I would look at it as a support level. For me personally, do you say dominance or the market cap? The market cap. I mean, you can look at the market cap. It's important for sure. I'm not saying it's not important. It's just like for me personally, I mostly look at the Bitcoin chart. This is the big level that we looked at. Like this volume profile was the major level that we were looking at. Right, before the big capitulation down, as we expected. Once we lost this, we lose the big push into the low volume gap, get the big capitulation, massive support. I would treat it the same on any chart, right? Whether I'm looking at dominance, whether I'm looking at market cap, whether I'm looking at Highland cow manure futures, I would look at it all the same, right? Like here, value area high was a key level of support. Once you lose it, you're looking to fill the range down to the value area low. I would just view it the same way. I don't want to get too deep into it because I got to run out of here. But yeah, I would just view it. I mean, it'd be support, and then once you lose the value area high, I would be looking to go to the POC, lose the POC, go back down to the value area low. Very similar. Shout out to Proud Gun Owner says, a guy uses sheep and cattle to find the true price of gold and silver. It's a pretty interesting way of thinking. Shout out to Proud Gun Owner. How does he do that? When 70K? We'll see. We'll see. We got the CME gap there. Can't guarantee you'll get the pullback. But one thing I can say, guys, is if we get the pullback there, right, CME 71,550-ish, sits right in line with that local support level. Right, 71.5, right? And then you have that backup support. So again, if you lose the support, and look at the market cipher B signals that we just talked about, if you didn't see it scrub back, that's what I would hope for. Money flow is coming up. If we don't see the confirmations there, we could fail it and go lower. But this is the biggest level to watch, in my personal opinion. And there you go. Value, not price. Interesting. But yeah, that's what I'm looking at, guys. I will keep you updated. We're kind of just wiggling around up here. Not really too much of an update from yesterday. But yeah, we did a 3-hour live stream yesterday. I guess today's going to be an hour and 50 minutes. But yeah, we'll see what happens. Key support, 73, 8, almost 74K. Lose that. Money flow comes out on the 45 1 hour. Look for the continuation down. I'll be looking right here for the major level of support. Hopefully, it could be a higher low for a higher high, and we can continue to print some money on this long position. So there you go, guys. That's all the time I got for today's live stream. Thank you all for tuning in. I appreciate every single one of you. Shout out to we still only doing short streams. If you know, you know. Shout out to Sam. Categorically, a short one today. Then technically, shout out to Sam. But yeah, technically, compared to yesterday, this is a short stream, a whole hour shorter. But don't forget to smash that like button and make sure you subscribe to the channel, guys, so you don't miss these key levels and the next move on Bitcoin. And if you're looking to learn how to make money trading price, whether price goes up or down, check out the free beginner series on the YouTube channel. That's all I got. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Hasta pasta. What's this? I don't like that. Frankie Candle's out. Bing bong!
Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll, and it's time to run it up, yeah, you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor, ayy, on the roll, here we go, yeah, we winning by a landslide. Never see me coming on my landmine. Yeah, I ain't taking orders in command, like, yeah, you about to see me on demand, like, you know, on demand. If you ain't know, you about to understand. Yeah, I got the team by my side, right hand. Yeah, take it to a string, you ain't seen it like that. Yeah, and it's the dream, and we coming for the bag. Yeah, and we ain't ever going back now. Future expedited, now we on the fast track now. They won't lend a hand, now they see us on the map now. It's time to act out. Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll, and it's time to run it up, yeah, you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor, ayy, on the roll, here we go, yeah, at the top of the class on a roll, ayy, and it's time to run it up, yeah, you know, yeah, maxed out, put the pedal to the floor, yeah, on the roll, here we go, here we go. Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll, and it's time to run it up, yeah, you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor, ayy, on the roll, here we go, yeah, at the top of the class on a roll, ayy, and it's time to run it up, yeah, you know, yeah, maxed out, put the